Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Suicide Squad Isekai Season 1, Episode 5. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Our Suicide Squatters are seconds away from getting their heads exploded, and I love that everyone, the only person that's really freaking out the most is Deadshot. Obviously, Rick doesn't have to worry about it too much because it's like, yeah, I'm not the one with a bomb on my head, and everyone else on the team is kind of a sociopath, so it's like, Peacemaker's kind of like, it is what it is, he's counting down the seconds, Harley's just kind of chill about it, so just everyone else is fine with it except Deadshot, someone freaking out, and luckily the signal comes through, so it's like, cool, let's remember this spot, and let's never get this close to it. So I can only assume this signal's sent out every so often. God, luckily I'm curious, like, is the signal sent out every couple minutes or what? We don't know, because the last thing you want is that sent out every hour, because God forbid, so... But I guess they just maybe perpetually have it go out like every minute or something. Maybe not. But either way, it worked out in the end. So like, let's come back here whenever we need to reset. And so basically they've got to continue with the plan of like, we got to keep the bridgeheads and connection going so that blah 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 resources they're trying to gather from this place. So they go back, and the Suicide Squad works with the Kingdom, and they're advancing. I love the map portrayal. It almost looks like a chessboard, especially with Harley being a piece on the board, and they're advancing and just kicking ass, working alongside the Kingdom's army, advancing more and more. And then the realistic thing happens of, shit, we ran out of ammo. I also love that King Shark calls because like King Shark tossed an enemy and Deadshot couldn't shoot it because he ran out of ammo, and like King Shark calls him limp dick. I was like, Jesus. So it's like, cool, what do we do? We're out of ammo. I love that it's like, yeah, like King Shark and Clayface are fine, but literally everyone else, Harley, Peacemaker, and Deadshot all need ammo. I also love that she's just frivolously burning her ammo because she has her cute, like, pinkish purple gun, and she's like, oh, look, I made a heart. But, yeah, and I think that's what bothers Deadshot. It's like, I'm over here struggling, I have no ammo, and you are frivolously burning your ammo just to make a heart. I would love it if that was literally every bullet left in that gun. I would love to know that, because that was quite a few shots. Like, that had to be, like, maybe like 24 bullets to make that heart. Probably more, but still. I want to believe Harley's crazy enough to have emptied out that entire like source of ammo she had just for that purpose. I mean, because Harley has like, she is a weapons person, and so is like everyone else too, like Peacemaker and Deadshot as well. So you have Rick considering like, well, we do have a means of like there is ammo in the helicopter the advance team came in, but it didn't crash, we just landed it, so we could go there to resupply. I love Harley being like, right, we could use a frying pan, and she's like, yeah, the fact of the matter is that's the perfect weapon. It's in like, which I also like, I'm like, is that a PUBG thing? Because PUBG's like, I'm not a third person shooter or battle royale person or whatever, but it's like, it feels like PUBG's the first thing I can remember that really like pop zeitgeist wise really utilize a frying pan in that regard. I'm sure there's other stuff they're pulling from, but that's what immediately came to my mind. Like PUBG, like it kind of like popularized the frying pan in my head, weapon wise, but I'm sure there's other things that have done too, but that's just where my brain went. I knew something was going to go. Well, first and foremost, Harley wanted to take a bath. It's like, wait, we have to go all this way. And I love how that was represented. It's like, okay, here's them on the map, and it like fast forwards their progress. So it's like, cool, we kind of have to go back to go forward. And they end up going back to the fort and they're meeting up with the monsters who are all chilling there. It's like, yeah, the Kingdom let us keep this place. Yeah, we kind of have free reign of it as long as we fight the war. So it's fine. And they had this whole interesting conversation about villains still being villains. But like Harley was like, really? Like, well, the Suicide Squad crew is kind of like, yeah, you guys are kind of weird for thinking that ignorance is bliss. But like the one that Harley refers to as Beanstalk was kind of like, yeah, but you guys are special. But they also say like, yeah, we are, villains are still villains. So we're still going to do our thing and enjoy our villainy while also taking advantage of the opportunities the Kingdom is going to present us. Because it is a thing of like, oh, like they've kind of eased up on us. But it is a thing of I'm sure the parallel is meant to be like, hey, the Suicide Squad is here on Waller's behalf. And it's like, not like she will give the them any levity. It's just for the purpose of getting her in. The ends justify the means. I think the same thing applies with the monsters in the kingdom. Like, probably the moment they're done with them, probably either lock them back up into prison or kill them, which coincides with some of the Suicide Squad stuff. I'll get to that later. But the moment they left, I was like, yeah, something's going to happen to this place. I thought the kingdom was going to, like, slaughter them or something. But jumping ahead to the end, as we can see, like, the Thinker. And once again, the person I keep assuming is Enchantress. I don't know that for a fact. But, like, the green flames and everything makes me feel like it's Enchantress. Once again, also making the parallel to both Suicide Squad, live-action Suicide Squad movies. Makes me feel like that has to be her. But we'll see. It's an interesting duo too, Thinker and her. I wonder why that duo. I also thought it was kind of an interesting little thing where Harley was asking for like a egg salad sandwich, which I think that was kind of a nod to Birds of Prey and a Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn, because I like to say that title because it's like that's the full title, so I'm going to take advantage of it because I know people hate the title, but I love the title because I love how like over the top it is. But either way, if I remember correctly, to be fair, I've not seen the movie since it came out in 2020. Like, watched it like when it came out in theaters, so I don't remember that. But I didn't Harley in that order like an egg salad sandwich, like an egg sandwich or something like that. Because I feel like also like that wasn't a Harley thing, that was a Margot Robbie thing. Because I feel like I remember her talking about it. It might have been on her episode of Hot Ones. I think she talked about like that's something she really likes, so they did it more so for her, and then they just put it in the movie. Might be, like I said, if I'm not misremembering. So that's why I'm feeling like that might not be a Harley thing. That's a Margot thing. That, I don't know, it'd be kind of neat if they actually implemented it. Because obviously live action stuff does eventually bleed backwards into the comics. It's not always forwards of like, oh, only comic stuff goes live action or in the adaptations. It's like, no, sometimes the adaptations bring stuff back to the comics. I mean, great example would be Harley herself. Started in the Bruce Timm Batman the animated series and eventually became a prominent big stay in the comics. So stuff like that happens all the time. So I think it'd be interesting if we found out like the egg sandwich thing is actually something that has been brought into the comics that it is. Or maybe that's always been Harley's thing and I just associated it with Margot. Because it might not have been an egg salad sandwich, but it was some like egg sandwich and I just can't remember what it was exactly that Margot's Harley ordered in Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. But yeah. I also love that Harley walked away with her frying pan in the end and got it and was so excited. You know, it's like, oh yeah, it's like the ultimate weapon. And they were going to need that weapon as they face off against a dragon, which I love the whole conversation of, aren't dragons usually like the final boss? It's like, I mean, that depends on the game. Some games, especially in like the, you know, anime-esque like aesthetic. I mean, I guess even fantasy aesthetic in general, but it's like, usually those are like the final bosses, but sometimes they're not. Like sometimes you'll fight a dragon like, midway, you know, just it depends on the world of like, you know, how prominent dragons are and stuff. So I also love like the little like montage we get of them like on their journey there, climbing a wall, butting heads, just the trail there. I was curious to see what kind of dragon it would be. Would it be fire breathing? I mean, it shot out fireballs, but it didn't do like a fire breath thing. So I was wondering, because obviously there's different dragons, like elemental dragons, like some have different, like, you know, like there might be a water dragon or a thunder dragon, yada yada. Seems like a basic like fire breathing dragon, once again fireball type of situation. So I did love Harley kind of having her moment where she used like the frying pan, because she saw like, because it does seem like it's not a regular frying pan. It's like you can like, I don't know if it's just a special frying pan or not, but it can enlarge itself, and she enlarges it and scoops up the fireball and throws it back at the dragon. I was like, yeah, showing like the power of the frying pan. Nanaue getting almost gobbled up by the dragon, interestingly enough. I was almost wondering if Deadshot's one last shot, I was like, oh, you're going to do something? You're going to aim for the eye and pierce his eye? Nope. The bullet hit its eye and did nothing. You just like pissed it off and distracted it enough. Nanaue managed to be okay, and he's caught on fire, which if they were like, oh, how is he fine? And it's like, once again, I guess it goes back to like, was that last episode we showed? I think it might have been last episode or episode before last. I think it was the episode before last. They showcased like he might have a healing factor thing going on. Once again, I don't know. I don't think that's a natural thing for Nanaue. Also love that Harley calls him Nana-chan, of course. But I don't know if that's just a magical power he got, because there was like a glowing around him while he was on fire. So The only person we haven't really seen like display any powers gained from this place is Deadshot and Peacemaker. Like, Harley's kind of gotten crazy boost in strength. Nanaue might have this healing factor. And then we see, obviously, Clayface has been the first one we've really showcased the most of how his powers have grown. That he's gained power over all clay, making giant walls. Once again, definite Gara vibes, especially when he made, like, the clay hand and everything. I love that he tried to shapeshift. I guess the point was he's going to try and shapeshift into a dragon and seduce the dragon. Because at first, when he turned into something, was like, they're like, oh, is that a bird? Is that a dog? I don't know what that is. I was like, is it supposed to be a griffin or something? But like, then Deadshot like made fun of him. It's terrible. Like, oh, you're terrible. And obviously, Clayface is very insecure about his acting. He's like, oh, you think like I'm not good enough or whatever? It's like, oh, that was definitely a sore spot that Deadshot like poked. Because you've never seen him get so defensive about his acting in that moment. This is like the first time we saw that. Wasn't quite sure how the battle with a dragon was going to end. Did not have on my bingo card, oh yeah, let's take it out with a rocket launcher. It didn't kill it necessarily. It just banged it up enough that it's flailing everywhere. And then it flies off the side of a cliff. And I love King Shark grabs Deadshot. And it's like, oh, like you did good or something like that. Like in his broken English. And then I forgot what it was saying, like, because obviously, like, I forgot what Deadshot responded with, but it was kind of like in a broken manner of speaking, just like King Shark. So at the end of the day, they slayed a dragon, which is pretty badass. It's like, yep, another thing we get to strike off the Isekai list for ourselves in this fantasy world. Did think it was interesting that while they were gathering supplies, like Rick Flag got the radio, he was kind of making a point not to show anyone. You do see like Peacemaker looking out of the corner of his eye, so he might have caught that, but he doesn't say anything. But it might have just been him looking at other stuff. So Rick does get in contact with Waller, who tells him like, cool, keep doing what you're doing. She's like, oh, you're still alive. Not like, oh, good on you. Just like, oh, you're still alive. Wasn't sure if you were dead or not. Well, about the advance team? It's like, well, they're working with the enemy. Cool. Kill them. It's like, and he's just, yes, ma'am. So leaning into the Suicide Squad element, it probably will be a thing of he will kill the advance team. Maybe they have their reasons for joining with the other side. I have no idea. Just like we know that some of the monsters joined the other side because they were brainwashed. We don't know about the elves. They seem to join the other side for whatever reason. But maybe our advanced team has a reason why they joined with them. But I get the feeling like this might turn into a thing of very much like the Suicide Squad, where it's like, hey, we sent you here to do a mission to cover up some stuff. So either the Suicide Squad is going to die at the end of this, or Waller wants them to die at the end of this because they've served their purpose and they're villains. So who cares if they die? No one's going to miss them. Or it's going to be a thing of, I want to keep this hush hush and I need all loose ends tied up. So, and that'll probably force Rick to be like, yo, I'm not going to be on the side of this. I'm going to, I'm with this squad. I've spent enough time with them. I come to care about them. So I'm not going to like frivolously let them die or kill them. So feels like that's the direction that's going to go with this setup with, well, go ahead and just kill the advanced team. But we'll see whether things kind of change or not. Whether it ends up being kind of a different direction they go with that. Oh yeah, I completely forgot. Harley picked up a baby dragon egg, which Peacemaker used as kind of leverage against the dragon. It's like, oh, that's why the dragon was acting that way. It's like, yeah. He's like, yeah, give me that pen and we'll like cook up the egg. And Harley got defensive, being like, how dare you like use someone's child? And it's like, what's Peacemaker? Kill any man, woman, or child for the purposes of peace. But Harley didn't appreciate that. She's like, oh, and holds onto the egg and gets treated as mommy. Which, if you do notice at the end of the episode, that dragon is way bigger than it was when it was in that egg. And it's probably only been like a couple hours. I mean, it takes a while to trail, like, they're walking on foot. Plus, they're dragging all that stuff back to the fort. Like, you know, it's like, cool, we left some of those supplies there that we can't take with us. But we got ammo. Let's try not spending it frivolously. But the dragon's definitely bigger, and if not a couple hours, maybe a day or two or something like that at most. But it's probably mainly been a couple hours. So that's going to be interesting. But it's kind of neat that, like, oh, Harley's got a pet, which how often does Harley have the hyenas? Like, I forgot where the first time I ever saw that. Because the Birds of Prey movie had them. I think that was the first time they've ever popped up live action wise that I'm aware of. Was the Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. But I can't remember the first time I ever saw them in general. Maybe they were in the animated series. I have not seen the 90s Batman series in so long, so maybe she had them then. I know they popped up. They pop up very infrequently in the Harley Quinn animated series. Because I know they're part of her. Aren't they part of her? I think she can utilize them as a technique in one of the Injustice games. It might have been two. Maybe it was one. But I think it's part of. I know it's part of her finisher. Like her super move. Her super. But like I think she has other techniques that involve them as well. I can't remember. So maybe this is supposed to be like her fantasy equivalency of having like her hyenas. Now it's like, oh, she has a baby dragon, and what that incorporates, and it's like, oh, well, it get bigger, they'll be able to fly around and utilize it as transportation, hopefully. So it's definitely gonna be interesting to see where everything takes us going forward from here. This is the halfway mark. This season's supposed to be 10 episodes, so it's gonna be interesting to see where this all goes. Whether or not everyone Beanstalk and them were killed. It kind of that's what I was saying. Like it kind of gave me like a JRPG vibe specifically too, where it's like I've kind of been experiencing that recently. I've been playing. I'm currently in the middle of playing Final Fantasy 16, where it's just like, oh yeah, you get introduced some characters, and the next thing you know, they're dead. That it happened in 15 too, but like I'm trying to think. Like it's probably happened in other stuff too that I'm just not thinking of off the top of my head. But like the quick turnaround of like, oh, you got introduced to this person, and the next time you turn back around, literally like an hour or so later, oh, they're dead. Well, hour or so of you playing or whatever, they're dead. So that's happened a few times throughout 16. So I'm just that's why I think I have that like fresh in my head. That thought process, but it's like, is Beanstalk any others dead? Is a kingdom even going to care? Once again, it is interesting that they were told to hold down the fort. They might even catch the flack of, oh, they were supposed to hold down the place and they didn't, so, and that might piss off Harley. Well, specifically Harley, but I think Deadshot and the others can probably appreciate, like, yo, these guys were good to us. They partied with us, got us alcohol, food. But like I said, they might have been sacrificial lambs, very much like the parallel of the Suicide Squad. That's probably why they were told to stay there, just for those purposes. And I'm curious would Cecil feel a certain way, being like, oh, they held down this place. It kind of sucks that, yeah, because like I said, just them getting food. Even the Suicide Squad was like, don't you think it's kind of weird that they just like rewarded you? I'm like, something seems off there. But we'll have to wait to see where the next episode ultimately ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.